The laughter at the table felt like a blade cutting through me. My father, Martin, stood tall, glass in hand, his voice booming across the decorated hall of my sister's engagement party. The chandeliers glistened above, the tables were lined with roses and candles, and every face in the room seemed lit up with joy. He was giving one of his signature toasts, the kind he always loved, full of charisma, full of that commanding presence that made people hang on to his every word. Then, with a sly grin, he said it. And of course, we can't forget Claire, our little accident. For half a second, there was silence. I could hear the clinking of glasses, the faint music in the background. Then came the awkward chuckles, a few bursts of laughter, and just like that, everyone moved on as if nothing had happened. Everyone except me. At 26, standing in that glittering room, surrounded by family and friends, I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. My chest tightened, my ears rang, and my eyes burned, but I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even breathe too deeply. I simply grabbed my purse, pushed my chair back quietly, and walked out of the hall without saying a single word. To them, it was just a joke. But to me, it was the final straw. It wasn't just about that one cruel line. It was about a lifetime of smaller wounds, unspoken comparisons, and the quiet but crushing weight of being overlooked. Growing up, I was the middle child, wedged between Ethan, the eldest, the golden boy, the one my father bragged about at every family gathering, and Sophie, the youngest, wrapped in endless affection and praise. Me? I was the shadow between them, the one who worked harder, tried harder, but never seemed to shine enough to be seen. I can remember so many moments that built up to this. I was 10 years old when I brought home a drawing that my art teacher said should be displayed in a school exhibition. I was so proud. I showed it to my parents, heart pounding with hope. My mom smiled faintly, distracted by Sophie tugging at her arm, and my dad glanced at it for half a second before saying, "That's nice, Claire, but did you see Ethan's science trophy?" And just like that, my excitement was swallowed whole. At 14, I tried out for the soccer team. I practiced for weeks in the backyard, sweating under the summer sun, hoping to prove myself. When I finally made it, I rushed home with the news. Martin barely looked up from his newspaper. "Good for you," he muttered. A moment later, Sophie came skipping in, showing off the A+ she got on a spelling test. He scooped her up and kissed her forehead like she'd won a Nobel Prize. It wasn't that he was openly cruel. It was that he made me feel like I didn't quite belong, like I was always the extra piece in a puzzle that didn't need me. Every sarcastic jab, every half-smile when I spoke, every time he introduced me to someone as the quiet one or the difficult one, those moments stacked up until I barely recognized my own worth. So when he stood there at that engagement party in front of dozens of people and called me a mistake, it wasn't a joke to me. It was confirmation of everything I had feared growing up. I drove home in silence that night. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My chest burned with a mixture of rage and grief, but I kept my face calm. By the time I reached my apartment, the tears came. Not loud sobs, just quiet streams that I wiped away as quickly as they fell. I texted Sophie a quick message, "I'm not staying." Then I turned my phone face down on the counter. That night, the calls began. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop with missed calls, voicemails, and texts. My mother's messages were a cocktail of guilt and disappointment. "You need to call your father. We're all upset with you." Sophie's tone shifted by the hour. At first she begged me to come back. Then she scolded me for being childish. Ethan didn't waste words. He simply texted, "Stop being dramatic." And then there was Martin's voicemail. His voice was steady, almost mocking. "It was just a joke. You need to lighten up. You've got to stop being so sensitive." That was him in a nutshell. Every time I expressed hurt, Every time I tried to set a boundary, he flipped it back on me. I was the problem. I was too sensitive. I needed to grow up. I'd been hearing that line, grow up, since I was a child, and it echoed in my head like a curse. But for the first time in my life, something inside me broke free. I realized that I had spent years waiting for him to see me, waiting for him to care, waiting for the day he would finally treat me as more than an inconvenience. And I saw clearly that day would never come. I had two choices. Go back, apologize for overreacting, and let them fold me back into the role of family punching bag, or walk away for good. I chose the latter. It wasn't a decision made in anger. It was clarity. I pulled out a notebook I had kept since high school, a journal filled with scribbles, thoughts I had never shared, and private truths I'd buried deep. In those pages, I saw the story of my life, the patterns of neglect, the moments of longing, and the slow erosion of my self-worth. I saw a girl who had spent too long waiting for permission to exist. I also saw the preparation I'd made without even realizing it. I had savings. I had a stable job. I had built pieces of independence in secret, almost as if some part of me had always known I might need to walk away one day. That party was simply the catalyst. The guilt was real, though. I won't lie about that. Walking away from your family, even a broken one, feels like tearing out a piece of your own flesh. I worried about my mother, about Sophie, even about Ethan in some strange way. But there was another feeling too, a darker one. I wanted them to notice my absence. I wanted them to feel, even for a moment, the emptiness they had made me live with my entire life. So I began pulling threads from Martin's perfect image. I didn't set out to ruin him, but I stopped protecting him the way I used to. I stopped covering for his flaws, stopped silencing the truth. When coworkers or acquaintances asked about him, I let slip the things I'd once held back. His temper, his shady business practices, his arrogance. Little by little, whispers spread. And when cracks began to form in the flawless facade he had built, Martin panicked. He called me shouting. He accused me of betrayal, of trying to destroy him. He threatened to show up at my apartment. My siblings joined the chorus. Messages full of anger, disappointment, rage. But through it all, I felt something new. I felt free. For the first time, I was no longer living for their approval. I filled my days with new things. Friends who valued me, volunteer work that gave me purpose, hobbies that brought me joy. Small things, maybe, but they were mine. A week later, Martin showed up at my door. He looked nothing like the man who had stood proudly at that engagement party. His shoulders sagged. His eyes were bloodshot. His face carried the weight of defeat. He didn't apologize, not in the way I'd always wanted. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He simply asked to talk. I listened. He spoke, but the words didn't matter. What mattered was that for once, he wasn't towering over me. He wasn't smirking, he wasn't dismissive. He was just a tired, flawed man. I told him the truth. I'm not coming back to be your joke. I'm done waiting for you to value me. He nodded. No arguments, no speeches. Just a silent acknowledgement that he had lost me. Then he walked away. Months passed. Life continued without me in their orbit. Martin's business never quite regained its spotless reputation. Ethan and Sophie slipped back into their familiar roles, avoiding the cracks rather than facing them. My mother sent a few half-hearted messages, but she never pushed too hard. And me? I built something new. A life where I wasn't measured against anyone else. A life where my worth wasn't up for debate. I found joy in small victories, pride in my independence, and peace in relationships where I didn't have to beg to be seen. Walking away wasn't easy, but staying would have meant slowly erasing myself for their comfort. I don't share this as revenge. This was never about vengeance. It was survival. Leaving that night, refusing to be minimized any longer, was the first step toward reclaiming my dignity. The aftermath taught me something I wish I'd learned sooner. Approval is not love. And sometimes the family you're born into isn't the one that truly sees you. Sometimes you have to step outside their shadows to find out who you are. I don't regret walking away. If anything, I regret waiting so long to see that I never needed their permission to exist. In the end, the most powerful thing I ever did for myself was stop apologizing for being here. If the story touched you, don't forget to support the channel. Hit that like button to let us know you enjoyed the video, and subscribe so you never miss more stories like this one. Your engagement helps us bring powerful and emotional stories to life. Also, share this video with friends or family who might connect with it. You never know who needs to hear it. And finally, drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. Remember, your story matters, and together we can create a community that truly listens.